Good morning, everyone. Welcome to American Scouser's Morning Coffee or Tea with American Scouser. It's Friday, TGIFF, as we like to say around here. Kermit is in the house as always. He's kind of happy, not as crabby as last week. And we are ready for the weekend. Our Friday gang is here. John, now that we've signed someone, he has been released from the asylum. Congratulations. Congratulations.
Thank you.
How's it going over there?
Well, I got my coffee black with no milk. Being recently released, trying to integrate myself into society again has been a little rough. But the signing of Wataru Endo has sort of smoothed things out a little bit. He's not quite what we came for, but it's enough. It's like taking your meds, right? It soothes you over for a bit of time, but at the same time, you'd need something more to solve the problem, and that's pretty much our whole deal right now. Well, I'm good, Tim. It's Friday, so I'm ready to go on.
There'll be a lot of Endo talk. We'll talk about like Klopp's press conference as well. And Anna doing his Alex impression, but in a self-driving car. And he's almost about to pull over. So that's the good news, because when I tell him about the Thiago news, I don't want him having an accent over here. What's going on, man?
Wait, what? Hold on a second.
Yeah.
Good morning.
You might want to pull. Why don't you sit down before I give you the news? Why don't you pull over before?
Yeah, I haven't seen any Thiago news. I know he was in training. I know he was looking good. I know the hair was looking nice. So that's what matters. And yeah, don't worry, I'm not driving. The car is driving, but I'm also almost at my destination. So we'll keep it 100% safe within the next few minutes.
Better be safe than sorry.
Exactly.
Let's start with Endo, right? I think that's going to be probably like the person we're going to talk about the most. And I'm kind of going to refer to scene here. Looks like a dude just doing a stadium tour. Just like so happy. He's like, this is great over here. Like very happy. And I guess that's probably one of the biggest pluses there, John. I mean, we'll come to why we ended up with him, or how we ended up with him as obviously one of the top options in this position now for defensive midfielder. But it's a dude that's happy to be here to play for this club, as opposed to all these guys saying like, who's giving them more money? Because that's what my blood color is going to be this week.
Right. It's actually refreshing. That's why I'm kind of happy. Like when he was announced, there was a lot of uproar saying that, oh, who is this guy? Who is this guy? But then, after the dust is settled, we looking at the stats, looking at how he plays, he is a good short-term signing. Now, he shouldn't be the be-all end-all. Like, let's get that out of the way. He shouldn't be our premier defensive signing, but in terms of how much we got him for, 19 million apparently, he's very ideal. He'll he'll plug a hole that's been like desperately wide open since preseason actually. So I think it's in terms of like, we talked about getting just someone who knows how to play the position. This is it.
Yeah, it makes sense in that. Yeah, I see what you mean there. Sparky says, well, I'd be happy to play too, but I'm not the first choice. No, yes, I threw my name in the hat as well, because as the search was getting desperate, I was like, why the hell not? I can tackle. But I mean, Klopp said today in the press conference, really happy to announce the agreements. I'm from Germany, like we didn't know. I watch a lot of Bundesliga. I've known him since he was at Stuttgart, and I liked him from the start. Last week was a tricky one. And then he finishes with, you can either stick with the problem or find the solution. I used to have a delivery driver for our company back in the day. And then I'd be like, hey, how are things going and stuff like that? Because, delivery drivers, when you ask them, they give you like 100 different like issues that they're running into. Like, this wasn't right, and I went over here, blah, blah, blah. And I remember this dude always used to say, don't bitch about it, be about it. And that's pretty much what we've done here, Anan, and said, you know what? Obviously, this is not happening. Let's go find a solution. And they went with a guy I feel like both Klopp knew and the sporting director knew from Germany. And they went with almost a safer bet with experience as opposed to what we were expecting.
Oh, I think Anan
is frozen in time.
Right. Yeah,
I think the Thiago news really threw him off. Yes.
Yeah.
He's Googling Thiago, so I had to go off air. It's like, what happened to him? I mean, is that basically what happened, you think, John? I mean, basically we said, okay, who do we know?
Yeah.
To be solid and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And they already knew this dude. It feels like the price tag is, like you said, is more than reasonable. I guess the main issue I had with the signing initially, because I really think, yes, he can definitely. You look at the numbers, like you said, it looks good, and it's a needs. And honestly, anybody who plays the position already is better than somebody trying to play the position.
Yes.
But my thing is, why don't we just do this earlier? So this dude could start the season, and then you go after, like it's a stopgap. The guy's 30, and that's probably like the biggest concern and everything. That was my thing first. I was like, what? He's 30, but okay, it's already like you can kind of see it's like a 2-3 year solution, but why not do this earlier and then say, okay, we got this. At least the problem is solved for now. Why don't we solve the future and go after Lavia and Caicedo and fiddle around with that, but at least there is somebody who can play the spot.
Yeah, that's a question that no one seems to have an answer for, Tim. You've been throwing that question around the Discord, and no one can seem to come up with a concrete answer. And that's honestly a very good question. I mean, I honestly don't know. Like, the fact that he definitely comes in as a stopgap signing, like, says it all. Like, we had 2 other players in mind. We failed miserably to get them. So here we are going with our 3rd, 4th, or 5th choice. Now, again, I don't mind the signing. He just has to be not the only one coming in. Like, if we end our transfer window with Endo as our final signing, then it's a disaster. Let's be real. No matter how good he's going to be.
Yeah.
Like, he seems like he's ready to run through walls and all that. But hey, like, we've prided ourselves in being a forward-thinking club, thinking 2-3 seasons ahead. Not so much with this signing. So I sincerely hope he's not the last name coming in.
And I can see maybe, that part, I almost feel like, okay, maybe they looked at how the squad is coming along and they were like,
Right.
Hey, we don't have really like a veteran presence. Let's go with somebody more mature. Okay, let's go with that. I just feel like, if you had this person, you kind of knew that, right? When you lost Milner, Hendo, and Fab, you lost some experience and some like senior leadership in that midfield. So this guy could have been a target earlier. I know, I think Megan was mentioning something regarding like him, like Stuttgart not willing to let him go. But then I want to know what changed. And his never came up like, oh, we were interested in him and got shut down. We talked about Kone, we talked about Thuram for like the initial month or so. We were like, oh, let's wait till the Euros is over and stuff like that.
Right.
But Turch says, and this was my fear, I've been saying this for a freaking month now, that we're going to miss out on 1 or 2 points for something, and then we're going to come back and say, see, if we did that earlier and started the season properly with a proper CDM, things would be different. Because I still say, I don't even know Endo, right? But even with Hendo at 6, I was saying that this last weekend would have been a win. So just got to get somebody who plays that position so everybody plays. Instead of having 4 people playing out of position, I'd rather have one inexperienced guy playing his natural position and everybody else doing their own thing. So
the best part of this is that we can actually push McAllister forward and maximize his strengths, at the very least, right? Like,
yes, I think that, you do that, and I think that has Szoboszlai, because then you don't have another attacker playing midfield next to him, so he's the only one playing out of position. It puts Gakpo where he, I think, should be in the front top. Kazi says, and I do agree with this, that is a good point, that he gives Liverpool bargaining power for the big signing, which is exactly why I feel like, why the hell did we not do this earlier and bring him in if he is going to help the bargaining for the big signing and gives us breathing space? Bring him in freaking like 3 weeks ago. Pay extra 2 million for him. I'm sure if he went to Stuttgart and said, no, how about 20 then? We could have pried this guy. He's, we could have gotten him. If Stuttgart let him go now, I feel like, Anan, it would have been harder if Stuttgart wanted to really hang on to this guy. It's getting harder and harder to pry a solid, experienced guy out of a team because you're leaving them less time to replace the dude.
Right. Yeah, I think, moving on from him now gives them the opportunity to sign somebody else, but also gives us the opportunity to put a Band-Aid on something. And I hope, like John said, this isn't the permanent solution. I see this as a temporary Band-Aid that we're eventually going to have to rip off. And that's why now the talk is like, there's Decore, there's this, there's that. And I hope we stick with that. I don't want, the owners to see, oh, Klopp said he's watched him play in Germany and he's a good player, so why should we sign another guy? We got other. That's my biggest fear. I know there's a lot of talk about other players, but my biggest fear is FSG says, okay, they said he's good, he's a captain, and Klopp has been watching him in Germany for so many years, so we're good. So yeah, I agree. He is there for bargaining power if we're gonna make a move for someone else. If not, listen, the guy might be great. I've only seen him play a couple of times because I was watching Bayern or Dortmund playing against Stuttgart. But other than that, who of us came in this summer and is like, oh my God, I can't wait till we sign Endo? You know? Like, okay, we lost Hendo,
Yeah.
we didn't sign Enzo, so we got Endo. So
It's a good mix. It's a good mix.
that scares me, man. That scares me.
But I mean, so on the transfers, Klopp says today that on the outgoing side, nothing will happen. So you can hear like glass breaking in the background because Phillips is throwing something around. But it's like, God damn it! Like, but I learned a lot of things in this window. I don't know what. I would love to know what.
Right.
Because like he has said this every window, so I know it's like a constant learning experience. But Jesus Christ,
Almost
like what have we
certain
learned?
he's taking a dig at financial fair play at Chelsea. Almost
Yes,
certain.
he did.
Yep.
He did. I mean, he basically said, some clubs do things. I guess somehow they can do kind of a deal, and basically saying Chelsea without saying Chelsea. For incomings, he says there is still time, and we will have a look. A lot of rumors today, a lot of plane chasing of planes going to Germany, to Munich. I know Kazi was mentioning Gravenberch and center back. It's a 10 out of 10 window. Honestly, based on the timing, I can't give 10 out of 10 to this window, regardless of who comes in at the moment. The best we're getting is 9, just because the season has started. We have already, I consider, lost 2 points. And I know Kazi says, if you can't take a point at Stamford Bridge, I can take a point at Stamford Bridge if I didn't know 3 points was so much easier to get if we had our shit straight, because that was the best time to play that team. And I know, and I think a lot will agree, that even with Fabinho at CDM, even with Hendo at CDM, anybody who's a CDM at CDM, Liverpool win that game, and they didn't. So going back to your boy there, did you pull over yet? Because, I don't want to really I know the car drives itself, but even the car might be like...
I'm like 30 seconds from pulling over. Go on, tell me. Because I didn't say anything about Thiago this morning, and if it's bad, I'm walking out and never coming back.
No, it's not too bad. Nothing that your car can't handle. So yeah, it basically him and Basetic are not ready yet. Stefan Basetic really close, but not there yet. We really count on him. Thiago Alcantara really close, but not there yet. So there was, we had kind of like talked about. He mentioned Endo. He's not ready, like not sure if the paperwork will be ready and he'll be able to play. John, do you see any scenario where obviously he wouldn't start, but do you see a scenario where Endo would even come in, knowing Klopp?
Probably not. Like, he's still subject to a work permit and all that like bureaucratic red tape and shit. Like, I honestly think we won't see him in the bench. Now, listen, no, with all due respect to Bournemouth, they're the perfect team for us to be playing at this time. I think we could get away using McAllister as the 6 again, but hopefully moving forward, we'll get everything with Endo sorted out. From Newcastle onward, we'd have a proper 6 starting. So yeah. I don't see him. I don't see him playing. I don't see him on the bench, honestly.
Well, that was actually the follow-up question. Alan says, is that an eject button above? And I said, I think if I told him that, Thiago was out for like 6 months or something, we would have found out if that's an eject button.
Right.
Because it was definitely being pressed. Sparky says, too much window shopping and no purchase. Wish the wife to the bit of Just waiting for the right purchase, yes. Look, I understand, and I don't blame going after these guys that we couldn't get or whatever, because the reasons we couldn't get them are very clear and shady. So I have no problem with all that. I don't take that as, this is a huge disaster, embarrassment, and stuff like that, because we know what happened and how Chelsea ended up getting them. But like I say, with this move, and I have no problem with, whoever we get right now is not going to be the first choice, and is not going to be the second choice. I think we made that clear to the entire world, right? So I understand that, and that's fine. Like I say, I'm just not as thrilled with the timing of it. And going back to what Kazi is saying, yes, if we got Gravenberch, I think that is a really good player to add to this team. And I don't know, obviously you said you watch Bayern. I know you didn't feature as much as he would like to. But Gravenberch, where are you at with that move?
Oh, he's a very good player. The talent is there. Under Klopp, this kid could be something huge. I would gladly take it. But the odds of that happening based on how this window has been, I have no faith. Endo was wearing a Liverpool jersey today, and I'm like, any minute now, some other team will come pick him up. So like I have no faith whatsoever in our current negotiation system. I have no faith whatsoever in the way we're contacting these players and trying to sign them.
Nobody's taking him. Look how happy he is. Nobody's gonna get him out of there.
Yeah, you know what? At this point, I don't know. No idea. Jurgen talked about Caicedo last week, said the deal is done, and then boom, next day we heard what happened. So I'll take him gladly. I really want us to continue the push. The player I really want is Doucouré, because I know he's got the Premier League experience. I know he's a powerhouse, and I know this is somebody that can benefit this club for, long term. And if you look at him with Palace, this is a good player, and this is the Premier League experience that we want. But listen, whoever we get, if they sign and Liverpool pay and they're at Anfield, I'll believe that we signed them. Until then, I'm out of this transfer window because it has been shambles.
So Gravenberch or Doucouré, John?
Oh, Doucouré, easily. Like, Anand pretty much touched up on everything that I wanted to say about him. Like, Palace Player of the Year, Premier League proven. He's a physical monster. He's exactly like what we need. He's like a Fabinho understudy, man. Like, Fabinho at his prime was a physical beast. He was long. And this Doucouré dude, his physique just matches everything we need from a defensive midfielder. Now, obviously, he might not, need some work to do, with positioning and all that, the understanding of the high line and all that shit. But this is what Klopp wants, physical monsters. So, I feel like we should absolutely go all out on Doucouré. Obviously, he's not our first choice, second choice, not even our third choice. So, whatever. It's whatever. We've pretty much, backed ourselves into a corner at this point. So I say we just make the most of what we have and go for it, man. Easy.
I mean, transfer market has, and that's what I was trying to pull up, what the transfer market has. Obviously, now the prices are more inflated than even transfer market can handle.
Right.
Gravenberch is at 30, Doucouré is at 35. So, Anand, you're willing to pay an extra premium, if you will, to buy that PL experience over potential talent, because potentially Gravenberch looks like the better player, right?
Right, yeah, but see, we're not really paying extra for the experience. We're paying extra because we made ourselves pay extra. If we got our business done early, that wouldn't have been an issue. That wouldn't even been a conversation. We could have gotten Lavia for 50, instead of having to go, here's 60, please give them to us. No, that's not the case. We're paying extra because we've cornered ourselves into paying extra. We waited so long to get our business done. And that's traditionally what happens. If you remember a few episodes ago, we all said it. Get him now before he costs more. And guess what? Everybody's starting to cost more because everybody knows how desperate we are.
Yeah, Mateus says, Mac, Endo, Sobo. We got to get another guy who ends with an O now. The transfer window may have been a mess so far, but it's not like there wasn't call. Yeah, I think overall, especially the way it started, the transfer window was going exactly how. And I realized, and honestly, we were, right? When we were talking about when they went into camp, we were pretty content with things in terms of how we're entering the camp. And then the handoff thing happens and stuff. We were like, oh, we get, we were discussing literally do we get another midfielder for depth or center back for depth and stuff like that, which is what I want to get to. Now that's been a far away conversation from that. So if we're going to add only one more player, I think the advantage of getting Gravenberch is I think he counts against home. He counts as almost like homegrown, right? You can still sign another player. Whereas with Doucouré, you sign Doucouré and you are done, is what I read, because he fills the last slots. I think that's the advantage. Gravenberch, somebody hopefully can confirm this. But if we sign only one player, Anand, let's start with you. Center back or midfielder?
Midfielder, because it's the more Matip's injured. We got sorry, if Konate's injured, we got Matip. If Matip's injured, we got Gomez. If Gomez injured, we can go look at the youth and kids. In the midfield, if Endo's injured, we're back to shuffling again. And okay, get McAllister, go back here, you go here. Thiago will be back. I know Bajcetic will be back, but let's use these players in a little bit of a more freedom role and get us a real holding midfielder that wasn't our 19th choice because we had to get him. Let's get a big name that, Liverpool are serious. So no, give me a midfielder.
So you want a midfielder? Okay.
100%.
I know I'm on the same page, but I think maybe I have more faith in Matip and Gomez than most. I think that's where we're at. How about you there, John? Center back or midfielder? Let's play center back or midfielder.
Midfielder definitely, and I'm pretty much touched up on it as well. I think we've never questioned Van Dijk's durability, so I think he's going to be fine this year. Konate is a question, but like you said, Tim, Matip and Gomez can still do a job, especially against lower opposition. I would say against weaker opposition. Obviously, we wouldn't want them starting against the big guns, but it is what it is. And we haven't like seen any news that we're actively shopping for a CB like lately. So with it being this late in the window, even if we did want a CB, I don't think there's enough time as well. Like we got a few weeks left. We still haven't got our premier midfielder yet. So listen, if we're gonna focus on one, definitely go for a midfielder because I don't want to sound cliche here, but the game is one midfield. Our best teams had an elite midfield. I still think our defense is manageable enough to get us to the levels that we want to get toward. But the midfield is non-negotiable, especially since we knew it was a weakness since the beginning of last season. So we might as well just get it done, get it over with right now.
Before we sold 5 midfielders.
Yeah, I mean, I say midfield as well, just because of that. But at the same time, is that I'm mainly saying that I know why Anana's saying it. I'm mainly saying it because I don't have as much faith or trust in Besetic and Thiago coming back healthy and staying healthy for an extended period of time. Because if you count those guys in, Anan, then don't you almost have? I'm just saying, bro. If you count those guys, don't you almost have a surplus of midfielders?
I love how his face is frozen. Like
I know, like that was great. I was gonna remove him off the screen, but I'm like, nope, we'll keep it just like that.
This is not every time we mention Thiago in a negative light. Like he's just like, listen.
So I mean, isn't that going to be almost like too many midfielders? But Spark says we won't spend the money on big midfielders, but at the same time, I know for a fact we're not going to spend the money. Big money on center backs either, because you are getting it for depth. I mean, I think you had that opportunity that we did not take. So do you take that as we will go for another midfielder and it might be somebody like, starter caliber midfielder?
Right. Well, to address Sparky's point first, if we don't go spend on a midfielder, then we're fucked, basically. Second, yes, I think that should be, but then should be is not necessarily how Liverpool Football Club approach things. Like it's always like, oh, we don't want to make it too easy for ourselves now, would we? That's what I feel like is the mentality that we're going in every transfer window. So yes, of course a CB would be nice, but like with how everything is going right now, I still think if we were going to be choosing one or the other, Klopp has given a lot of hints that he'd be going for a midfielder first. So. Again, CB would be nice, but it is what it is. It's what August 18th. We got little over like less than 2 weeks to go. So what are we gonna do, right?
Man, I don't know where Sparky is, but the weather must be really shit over there because I haven't seen him this negative in a while. What the hell is going on, dude? There's like a storm coming or something. He's like, oh, we're fucked. So no, I feel like. Because we're going to play these Thursday games and stuff like that, the more depth, the better. I mean, I know people were saying, like, Endo played center back as well and played right back as well. But I feel like that's somebody like who signed Endo, and they can say he's played center back before because we played Hendo as center back, but it didn't turn out very well.
Technically, Hendo has played right wing too, because in the formation sometimes he goes right wing. So woohoo! I guess you got a jack of all trades right there.
I just don't see him. I mean, I guess if there's an urgent need or something like that, but I just don't see Endo being ever used as one. Especially now that Klopp has said there are no more outgoings, which means Phillips is still here.
Yeah. Like I would use Nat Phillips over Endo. Like, let's be real. Like, let's put him in as a 6. We bought him in as a 6. Let's put him in as a 6. Like, if what Klopp is saying is true, that there are no outgoings coming out, like, might as well use Nat Phillips there. We got Joe Gomez, we got Joel Matip, we got Ibrahima Konate, we got Virgil van Dijk. Like, if we're playing Endo at the 6, not at the 6, at CB, then something has gone horribly wrong.
Yeah.
Let's put it that way. Yeah.
But so you think people who are saying CB are more worried about injuries or more lack of faith for Matip and Gomez?
I think I'll put in a third option here. I think they're gassing up Endo. Because we bought this guy. He can play multiple positions. It's kind of like a coping mechanism. And to be fair, I bought into it as well. I'm just like, oh, this guy's probably the new Milner. He can play right back. He can play anywhere in midfield. He can even play CB. Hell, he could probably play goalkeeper too. Like knowing him, he'd probably be like willing to do everything that Klopp would throw at him. But like in all seriousness, listen, the injury records aren't good on the CB front, but at this point, we've pretty much backed ourselves into a wall where you have to take a gamble at a certain position. And I think we're going to gamble on our CBs being healthy enough to, at least until the January transfer window and focus on the midfield. So, yeah, whether Hendo, geez, this is Hendo, Enzo, Endo.
Yes.
Yeah, geez, like I'm going to go back at the asylum at this rate. But like, yeah, like Endo is a 6, and he should stay a 6. If he plays anywhere other than the 6, like I said, what's going on?
I agree too. I don't count him as CB cover when you have Phillips and Klopp confirms that Phillips not to mention the dude is 5'10". I mean that's kind of small for a center back. And the days of the sweeper libero that I used to play as little dudes is over. You need the size in there.
Like if Joey G gets beat in the air so many times, like this guy is gonna be hell. Like he's gonna have
not to mention if you make him center back and if you make McAllister defensive midfielder, like you got really short there. I know like you have Gakpo and Sobo, but still like defensive minded people, you got like really short over there. The Polish Prince says they need the successor to Van Dijk on the left side. That's why one could go center back so that we're not in the same position that we're now at Van Dijk leaves. I wonder, and I kind of wanted to talk about this on the Monday night podcast too, but we never got around to it. As I watched the Chelsea game and I'm looking at Thiago Silva, I'm thinking to myself, could Van Dijk be Thiago Silva?
Yes.
You see how well Silva plays.
Easily.
Now that he's slower, because Silva used to be a really fast center back as well when he came onto the scene. But as he's gotten older and slower, he's made the adjustment, and the dude is still playing. What is he, 37, 39? Something ridiculous like that. You think Van Dijk can make that adjustment as well? Because we feel like, when we look at him, and you'll see his, a little bit like cockiness, which is what makes him great in that sense. Will that cockiness prevent him from adjusting his game to be a guy like Silva?
Well, I hope not, but I definitely think he can be. He's definitely got the tools. Like, regardless of whether he's slowed down or little, he's still pretty much unbeatable in the air. And in a purely physical battle, I think it's incredibly tough to beat Virgil, whether or not he's declined or not. So, listen, Thiago Silva, you're right, is the benchmark. Like he looked like he was 31 or 30 against us when we played Chelsea. So yeah, if definitely there's a benchmark for Virgil to look at, it has to be Silva. And to answer your question, Tim, 100% he can be like that. He just has to tweak a few things here and there. That cockiness.
He can be. Will he be?
Yes, an easy yes for me. Like he's that good. Like you don't like come second on the Ballon d'Or if you're just some scrub. Like that's all I can say. Like if he's good enough to reach that level of, peak, I think he's good enough to adjust his game when it comes down to it.
See, but those are different things. What do you think, Anan? I think yes, he's definitely obviously he's like that good, but is he that good because of his physical abilities? Obviously, he's a good defender overall, but now you got to be able to change, and more than I think. Being able to, part of it is like ego too. You got to kind of swallow your pride and say, I can keep up with it that way now. I got to play this way to be able to compensate for my lack of speed.
Yeah. And let me say this. He has changed his game a little the last season and a half. He stopped the running forward. He started the backing up. He started the moving backwards to letting you come at him instead of him coming at you. So he has started changing his game. And I think he will be that Thiago Silva kind of Sergio Ramos guy when he's older, but he's still going to be able to give you all that, give you the 90 minutes, but change the game a little bit, tone down the aggressiveness. I think he will do that for you. And I think he's going to do it even better than Thiago Silva and everybody else, because we're talking about probably one of the greatest defenders of our generation, and he's got the longevity. I know the ACL injury kind of scared us away, but he came back looking great, just a little slower. And obviously, as he continues to get older, he's going to continue to slow down. So he will give you that, but I don't see him in top level much longer. I think I give him maybe another season with us, and then he might consider the Saudi bids or or something along those lines, just because. I mean, it's what the modern footballers are doing these days. I hate to say it, but it is what it is.
And that's a good point, because with that option being out there, and he would be a name I think that a Saudi team would go after. I mean, I don't think they're coming after Konate, but you're bringing in Van Dijk. I think it's a bigger deal in the Saudi league than, let's say, bringing in Konate or somebody like that, in
Right.
terms of his name and profile and stuff, because they're not only after the skill, they're also after the profile when they're signing these guys as well. So the fans are
Right.
like, oh, Van Dijk is coming. I don't think as many fans are going to say, "Oh, Konate is coming." So that brings us back to that.
Let me actually bring up Matusha's point here about a Van Dijk successor. Do you guys think Konate's ceiling is high enough for him to be that Van Dijk successor, and then we bring someone to partner him?
Absolutely.
In terms of a role, but not in terms of
like he's just as physical, just as strong, just as fast as Virgil, I would say.
On the left-hand side, I guess, is the concern. Like, we don't really have a left side center back. We have a right side.
Right, we flip the roles. He'll be on the right side, and then his partner will be the left-sided one, and he'll.
Yes, but that's what the successor I think he's referring to. Like, there's no one to come in for Van Dijk. I mean, if you notice, Van Dijk plays all the goddamn time, and maybe that's why we're not helping him with his age by playing him all the damn time.
Right.
Konate says would be a big deal. Given religion, I think Konate might be more tempted and might be easier for Konate to go there. But I think for a fan in the Saudi league, let's go to you with this, Anan. I feel like it would be a bigger deal to be bringing Van Dijk in as opposed to Konate, just by the name.
Van Dijk would be the big name. He would be that superstar signing.
Yeah,
they're not going for non-superstars. They're going for those big names because this is all a marketing event rather than a footballing event. So the name Virgil van Dijk sells more, because when they announce him, they can post the second in Ballon d'Or, best player in Europe, blah 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 blah, and then captain of Liverpool. So they'll sign. Gerrard will sign him. So that's just the better signing to make, considering his name.
That's a good point, actually. That club could be, if Gerrard is still there in like 2-3 months, because I don't know, that's debatable. The turnover over there is really high. But if he's still over there, that could be something where we kind of keep shifting there. Sparky says, no transfer window over Saudi League, so Klopp can't say no one will leave. Mo, Alisson, Van Dijk, all in the Saudi table. But I don't see those guys leaving now that the season has started. You're not going to have Alisson or Mo, unless we keep taking Mo out in the 60th minute or something, leaving, wanting to go there. I don't think that happens mid-season for us or any team. I don't see a lot of teams. I can see somebody, this could be a good bailout for Premier League teams trying to get rid of their guys who are not performing by shoving them over there and not waiting until January or the next window opens. But I don't see players saying, oh, you know what, then I'm going to the Saudi League or something like that in November. I just don't see that happening. I mean, there'll be some guys, but I don't see, like the names that Sparky's mentioned, I don't see it there. So let's go do a soft preview of the weekend over here. John, what kind of an 11 are we looking at? Are we doing the same thing and hoping, obviously, it's against Bournemouth now, and it's going to be a different game. It's going to be more against a team that's, you would think, is going to park the bus.
Right. I definitely think it's going to be it's going to be more of us having the ball. That's for sure. We had 30% possession against Chelsea.
35. Yeah. Funny you mentioned that, because I think one thing Klopp said, let me pull that quote up, but he said something. He referred to that in terms of like our possession. And it was, I can't remember the word. You keep going as there you go. We had 35% possession, and that is an absolute joke. That was not our idea for that game, but it happened. So I would think the focus is going to be possession now.
Right. And we're playing at home. It's our first home game against like a jam-packed Anfield crowd. I expect us to have like 90% possession at some points. I think we win the game handily, but then we have to be careful, especially with the counter. Bournemouth, like when we played them last season at Bournemouth, like we looked especially vulnerable there, especially now with Endo still being able not being able to play. McAllister is definitely going to be playing the 6. I feel. I hope that Gakpo gets moved forward to that false 9 role instead of being in midfield, and Curtis Jones comes in. And Diogo Jota goes to the bench for maybe an option later on in the game. Otherwise, pretty much the same lineup for me. Different kind of game, of course, like I mentioned, and hopefully a win because if we drop points for 2 games in a row, then I do not want to go into that. So that's all I'm going to say.
Anand's eyes got big because I know where he's going to go with this. And I have a feeling we could possibly see that too. And maybe Nunez replacing Jota. And that would make you a happy man.
And that is exactly what's going to happen. Nothing against Jota, but I think this is the kind of game where you want to go in fluid and get some goals. And I think, and I know we're like, oh, Nunez is going to get the goals. Yes, he will. But I'd say it's very likely that we will see McAllister at the 6. We will see Gakpo playing that 10. Or we could see Jones because this is a more open game. Jones can get a little more creative in the midfield. But up front, Darwin. Darwin's going to start. Darwin's going to score. It is what it is. And this is, I remember before the Chelsea.
This was just a formality coming to you on this.
Before the Chelsea game, I said this is going to be a more close-minded game where, it's a 0-0, 1-1. We may not have so much possession. This is the complete opposite. Like John said, we'll have the ball a lot. We'll play the long balls. We'll play into spaces. And I'd say Nunez scores, Salah scores, everybody scores. It's a party.
Wow, it's a party, said. Jones is injured, won't feature this weekend, says. Huh. Well, that's Chris. So really? I did not hear about that. I didn't see in the press conference either. Because honestly, if he was available, I was about to ask. I guess that cancels that question.
Let me just say, sorry, Tim, to cut you off, but the look Anand gave was very Thiago. I was just like, is that Thiago over there?
The big eyes.
Thiago's back in the team, and he's infecting everyone. Everybody's injured.
I picked up a knock in training. I had $1 for every time I heard that. We'd be banking right now. Because I was going to say, could this be a game where he does actually go to the defensive midfielder role, knowing we're going to be playing more attacking and stuff like that? So I guess that cancels that question out of the way. So you're saying Mac, you basically just replaced. Well, now what if Jones is not there?
Then we're going back with Gakpo.
Nunez in there for Jota.
Nunez in for sure.
Well, let me ask you guys this. Going back to Endo, I mean, even if his paperwork comes through, it's not like he's going to start. You might just have him introduced to Anfield in the 80th minute or something like that, hopefully to close out a game or something as an ideal case scenario. If this game goes well and we're so solid defensively, will that affect who starts at 6 against Newcastle? Or either way, you think, Anand, it's way too soon for Endo to start at 6 against Newcastle away?
Oh, here's where I stand with this. If you got the player that plays that position, the only way he's going to get that experience is if you throw his ass in there. So I get it. It's football isn't that simple, but we're talking about an experienced footballer. We're talking about a captain of a German team. We're talking about one of the guys with the best, success tackle rates. I don't see why he doesn't start against Newcastle. I see absolutely why he doesn't. That's why we signed him. That's why we brought him.
I have one reason for you. Klopp.
Well, that's the issue. But I hope that reason calms down and we just make wise decisions because we don't want to say, oh, he wasn't ready, but then we go in that game and we get smished and we're like, well, we had the guy on the bench, he just didn't play him. We don't want to go through that. So no, this game ends, he gets himself 5, 6, 7 minutes if paperwork is in. If not, he's got a whole week of training and he's got a game to start against Newcastle.
How about you there, John? Are we if everything goes well and they're like, hey, maybe this is working overall, we might buy some Endo sometime kind of thing? Because it's a tough place to play at as well. I think if it was home, I think the equation would have changed. But do you throw Endo to the Wolves away at Newcastle?
Yeah, because I feel like the benefits that of putting McAllister in his natural position like outweigh the negatives of starting a new defensive midfielder. Like, sure, he's gonna miss like quite a few tackles here and there. Positionally, he might not be like where he's supposed to be, but McAllister in that left-sided 8 role is just magic. Like at the 6, he was really good, and that's not even his proper role. If we put him in where he's supposed to be, I'd give us a bigger chance of winning against Newcastle instead of like putting him in a. It's like you're removing a lot of positions just to compensate for it. Like it's kind of like the whole 2020 thing where we removed Fabinho from the DM position to cover for us missing Van Dijk. So essentially instead of us being like deficient in one area of the field, we're deficient in 2 areas now because we removed Fabinho from his natural position. So we might as well put in Endo in, and we put in McAllister at the 8th and see what happens. Like if we draw or if we lose, then it is what it is. But listen, it's not the be all end all. It's the 3rd game of the season. We can still recover from it at least. And it's better than us going like, oh, Endo's on the bench and like we didn't use him. Now we look really exposed. So I'd rather we give it a shot than, take the conservative route.
So based on that, I'm taking that as if his paperwork is there and he's able to go, you would even start him tomorrow.
Oh, well, tomorrow, actually, yeah, now that you mentioned it, because you said home, it's a different thing. I feel like we're going to have a lot of the ball tomorrow, like enough of the ball to cover if ever he has any like positional mishaps. And of course, I believe Trent is going to be next to him in the pivot, like advancing. So he'd have some sort of cover to help him out. So yeah, if he is available, then why not? Right? Why not? Let's bet him in as soon as we can.
Let's just fucking throw him in.
Right, let's just throw him in. Let's see what happens.
Starting the poor guy before he even takes his camera. He doesn't even get a chance to put his camera away when he's doing the stadium tour. He's like, hold on, I was just taking some pictures. They're like, get out there, kid.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Mainly because with the Newcastle situation, he's got himself a week of training. He's clear of what's happening tomorrow. He's like, guys, I just got here. He may even be like, I don't even work here. Do I? Oh, wait, shit. Yeah, I do. No, absolutely not tomorrow. But next week, yes, when he's got that 1 week of training, when he knows what is asked of him. But as of now, he hasn't trained with the club. So, no, absolutely not.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, like I say, I think a good scenario for him to be coming in late in the game to close out the game so that he's not starting. He doesn't have the nerves against Newcastle if we do start him against Newcastle and he's already played. So he doesn't have the being away and being a little player for the first time and have those nerves and stuff. I hope that paperwork happens somehow so we are able to get that out of the way. I think that would make me a lot more comfortable if I see him in the starting lineup next week, as opposed to him having his first experience in Liverpool and having some shaky legs. So Ranson says Newcastle away is probably the hardest game of the season. Nice to get it out of the way early. I think that same goes really for the Stamford Bridge one. That's why it's so mad that we didn't get the 3 points out of it. But let's do some predictions on the way out over here. Let's start with you there, John. Give me a score for tomorrow's game. Obviously, we will be at the pre-match as well once the lineups come out tomorrow before the game. But give me an early prediction.
3-0 Liverpool.
By the way, camera yielding jab is very stereotyping. See, I knew somebody was going to go there, and I should have known it was going to be Sparky. Because honestly, when I first saw it, I kind of like thought the same thing. Like when I saw his like first picture over there, because it looked like a stadium tour. I wasn't going there, but I'm glad you did. Okay, so better you than me. How about you there, Anand? Give me a score. You said it's a party, so I don't know.
I had it at 3-0, but John said it, so I'll just one up him and say 4. But I don't know. I don't know if it's gonna be 0 though. We might concede at least 1. But for me, we'll score 4. 0 or 1, one of those 2.
Yeah, I think at the moment I kind of have a hard time picking up a clean sheet with this makeshift back line, and basically let's say makeshift 5. Maybe the back line is the actual back line, but I think so. The 5-1 Endo hat trick. I don't know if he's going to be able to squeeze in that many goals in that little time, but yeah, it would be, I think, an ideal scenario to get a comfortable win where you can put him in for the last 20 minutes or so. So if he is eligible, my gut says he's just going to be watching the game and he's not going to be part of the ordeal. We'll just
most likely
the stadium, and that's going to be about it. But we will be back here before the game once the lineups come out. Gally is actually hosting the pre-match this week, so a bunch of us will be jumping on. Join us then. Give us your take once the 11 comes up, And then obviously we're going to be here right after the match as well. Everybody have a great Friday evening, and we'll see you guys tomorrow morning first thing. Get some sleep.